My name is Elena Whitmore. I'm 68 years old. For 40 years, I trusted my husband Howard with everything. Our house, my pension, my life. Then I found the Medicare bills. $847 for tests I never had. Howard, there's been some mistake. Honey, you're just confused. Your episodes are getting worse. But when I stopped taking his blue pills, my mind cleared. I found forged papers in his locked desk. Bank transfers to Clara Sanchez. My money, supporting his girlfriend. You're having another episode, Take your pill. No, Howard, you take yours. He told everyone I was losing my mind. He locked away my Medicare card, my phone, my mail. It's for your own good. He thought a confused old wife would never fight back. But today, I'm the one signing his arrest warrant. If you're hearing this story, tell me in the comments. Where in the world are you listening from? Before we begin today's story, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Now let's get started. The marble island gleamed under kitchen lights. Elena Whitmore ran her finger along each compartment of the pill organizer. Tap, 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 like counting time itself. Howard passed behind her. His dress shoes clicked against tile. I sorted your doses already, His voice carried that familiar weight. Don't improvise. Elena's hand paused over Wednesday's compartment. The pills rattled like small stones. It's my body, Howard. She forced brightness into her tone. I can count to 7. Howard straightened his tie in the hallway mirror. The same ritual, every morning, for 40 years. I'm going for my run, he announced. The front door closed with a soft thud. The house exhaled. Elena moved to the window. Watched his figure disappear around the corner. Gray running suit. Perfect form. Even his exercise looked like a business meeting. She turned toward the front door. Something white peeked from beneath the mat. Mail. Her fingers found the envelope's edge. Bold blue letters across the top: Medicare explanation of benefits. Elena's pulse quickened. She hadn't been to any doctors recently. The kitchen table seemed too far away. She opened it right there. Standing in the entryway, light from the window fell across the page. The numbers hit her like cold water. Cardiac ultrasound, $847. Psychiatric consultation, $320. Follow-up psychiatric session, $275. Elena's breath caught. The paper trembled in her hands. No, she whispered. I wasn't there. She read the dates again. Last Tuesday, she'd been gardening, planting tulips by the mailbox. Mrs. Chen from next door had waved. The front door opened. Howard's shadow stretched across the entryway. His breathing was even, not winded from the run. Morning mail? He asked, reaching for the envelope. Elena pulled it back. Howard, look at this. Her voice cracked. These charges. I never had these appointments. Howard glanced at the paper. His expression didn't change. We talked about this. That patient tone, like speaking to a confused child. You get mixed up and then you spiral. Mixed up? Elena's voice rose. I know where I was last Tuesday. Howard walked to the kitchen sink. Filled a glass with water. The sound seemed too loud. Show me your Medicare card, Elena said. Just for a second, Howard returned with the glass. And something else. A small blue tablet between his fingers. Take this first. He set both on the counter. You're shaking again. Elena looked at her hands. They were shaking. When had that started? Howard, why are there medical bills in my name for appointments I never made? Because sometimes you forget. Howard's voice stayed gentle, controlled. The doctor explained this could happen. What doctor? Howard smoothed the EOB against the counter. Folded it once, twice, slipped it into his jacket pocket. I'll handle the grown-up paperwork. He touched her shoulder. You handle your garden. Elena pressed her palm against the marble island. The stone felt solid. Real. I'm not seeing things. But Howard was already walking away. The kitchen light flickered. A small electrical buzz filled the silence. Elena stared at the blue pill beside the water glass. How long had she been taking these? The question floated in her mind like smoke. When had the pills started? Spring? Earlier? She picked up the tablet. Held it to the light. No markings. No numbers. Nothing to identify what it was. Howard, she called toward his study. What is this medication for? Your episodes, came his voice through the door. So you don't get confused. Elena set the pill back down. Confusion. That word again. Like a diagnosis she'd never received. From a doctor she couldn't remember seeing. The EOB disappeared into Howard's pocket. But the numbers stayed burned in her mind. $847. $320. $275. Money taken from her Medicare benefits. For services she never received. From doctors she'd never met. The morning sun slanted through the kitchen window. Everything looked the same as yesterday. The same marble counters. The same ceramic bowls. The same husband moving through the same routines. But something had changed. The envelope on the mat had changed everything. Elena lifted the water glass. Held the blue pill between her fingers. Howard's footsteps moved overhead. Regular. Measured. She thought about Tuesday. The tulip bulbs. The dirt under her fingernails. Mrs. Chen's wave across the fence. Real memories. Clear as photographs. The pill looked smaller now. Innocent. Just a bit of blue nothing. Elena brought it to her lips. Then stopped. What if she wasn't the one who was confused? The thought hit her like electricity. Sharp. Dangerous. She set the pill on the counter. Left the water untouched. Outside, a car passed. Normal morning sounds. But inside her chest, something was shifting. A feeling she hadn't had in months. Clarity. Howard's voice drifted from upstairs. Take your medication, Elle. We have the Clarksons' dinner tonight. Elena looked at the pill again. Such a small thing. But maybe that was the point. She walked to the kitchen window. Looked at her tulips by the mailbox. They were growing. Pushing through soil toward light. Real. Unmistakable. True. The EOB was gone. Folded away in Howard's pocket like it had never existed. But Elena remembered every number. Every date. Every impossible charge. She wasn't losing her memory. Someone was stealing her identity. The realization settled in her chest like a stone. Elena touched the counter where the envelope had been. Her fingerprints were still there. Proof she'd touched it. Proof she'd seen it. Proof she wasn't imagining things. The blue pill sat beside the water glass. Waiting. Elena walked past both. Up the stairs. To the bathroom mirror. Her reflection stared back. Alert. Focused. Afraid. But not confused. Never confused. Someone wanted her to be. Someone needed her to be. The question was why. Elena gripped the bathroom sink. The porcelain was cold and solid under her hands. Real. Like the EOB had been real. Like the numbers had been real. Like the theft had been real. From downstairs, Howard called again. Elle, did you take your pill? Elena looked at her reflection one more time. Then called back, yes, Howard. I took it. The lie came easily. Surprisingly easily. She waited. Listened to Howard's satisfied silence. Then she flushed the toilet. Let him hear the water running. Let him believe his perfect system was working. But upstairs, behind the bathroom door, Elena Whitmore was wide awake. For the first time in months, completely awake. Elena woke to silence. The house felt different in the morning light. Cleaner. Sharper. Like someone had adjusted the focus on her life. She reached for her phone on the nightstand. Gone. Howard? She sat up. The bedroom was empty. His side of the bed already made with military precision. Elena checked the dresser. The bathroom counter. Nothing. Downstairs, Howard stood at the kitchen island. Reading the financial section. His coffee cup sat precisely 2 inches from his elbow. Have you seen my phone? Howard looked up. That concerned expression. The one that made her feel small. You probably set it down somewhere strange. He patted his pockets theatrically. These things happen. I don't lose my phone in my own home. Don't you? Howard folded the paper. Creased each edge. Yesterday you couldn't find your reading glasses. They were on your head. Elena touched her temple. Had that happened? The memory felt fuzzy. Like trying to remember a dream. I need to call Rebecca. Her daughter in Seattle. Their weekly check-in. Use the landline. Elena walked to the hall table. The phone wasn't there. She checked the kitchen counter. The living room side table. Howard, where's the landline? In my study. I moved it. Elena tried the study door. Locked. The brass knob wouldn't turn. Why is it locked? Howard's voice floated from the kitchen. So you don't get scammed. A pause. You're vulnerable, Elle. Vulnerable. Another word that had appeared in their conversations recently. Like a diagnosis she'd never requested. Elena pressed her ear to the door. The phone was ringing inside. Someone calling their house. But she couldn't answer. Who's calling? Probably a robocall. Howard appeared beside her. This is exactly why I moved it. Elena stepped back from the door. I can handle my own phone calls. Can you? Howard's tone stayed gentle, patient. Last week you almost gave our bank information to some telemarketer. Elena frowned. She didn't remember that, but Howard seemed so certain. I need to get dressed, she said. The charity luncheon is today. Right. The hospital fundraiser. Howard smiled. You look forward to that every year. Elena climbed the stairs. In the closet, she reached for her navy silk dress. The one that made her feel confident. Professional. Like the teacher she used to be. But when she held it up to the mirror, something was wrong. The woman staring back looked tired. Uncertain. When had that happened? The dress still fit, but Elena felt like she was wearing a costume. At the country club, Howard guided her through the crowd. His hand stayed on her elbow, steering, controlling her direction. Elena, you remember the Hendersons. She did remember them. Tom had been Howard's golf partner for 15 years. Margaret taught Sunday school at their church. Of course. Elena smiled. Margaret, how was your trip to Cape Cod? Margaret's expression flickered. A glance at Howard. We went to Martha's Vineyard, dear. Heat rose in Elena's cheeks. Right. Martha's Vineyard. Howard's fingers tightened on her elbow. Her memory has been slipping, he said quietly. But loud enough for the Hendersons to hear. It's heartbreaking. Elena's lips parted. That's not. Honey, Howard's voice rose slightly. Concerned. Loving. You're tired. The Hendersons nodded sympathetically. Tom clapped Howard on the shoulder. Hang in there, buddy. These things are tough. Elena wanted to speak, to correct them, but Howard's grip was firm. His smile was perfect, and suddenly she wasn't sure what was true anymore. At lunch, Elena sat between Howard and Grace Phillips, a woman she'd known for 20 years. Elena, are you doing okay? Grace asked gently. You seem different lately. Before Elena could answer, Howard leaned forward. Some days are better than others. His voice carried that familiar weight. The tone of a devoted husband bearing a terrible burden. I'm right here, Elena said. But the words landed like pebbles in snow, barely making a sound. Grace nodded sympathetically. It must be so hard, Howard. You're such a good husband. Elena gripped her water glass. The condensation made her fingers slip. I can speak for myself. Of course you can, honey. Howard patted her hand. When you're having a good day. The conversation moved on. Around her. Over her. Like she wasn't there. Elena excused herself to the restroom. In the mirror, she looked for signs of confusion. Illness. Whatever Howard saw that she couldn't. Her reflection looked back. Clear eyes. Steady gaze. Alert. Not confused. Afraid. When she returned to the table, Howard was showing someone photos on his phone. Elena caught a glimpse of brochures. Pamphlets. What are those? Howard quickly closed the screen. Nothing important. But she'd seen enough. Assisted living facilities. Memory care units. Elena's stomach dropped. The drive home was quiet. Howard hummed softly, a habit that used to comfort her. Now it felt like a lullaby designed to put her to sleep. At home, Elena watched Howard file papers in his study. The door stayed open just long enough for her to see folders. Labels. Her name written in his careful handwriting. What are you filing? Insurance paperwork. Medical bills. Howard's voice was matter of fact. Don't worry about it. But Elena was worrying. About everything. That evening, she found the EOB again. Howard had refiled it on the kitchen table. Like evidence he wanted her to see. Elena picked it up. Studied the numbers again. $847. $320. $275. I need to call Medicare, she said. To ask about these charges. Howard appeared instantly. Like he'd been waiting. The phone's in my study, remember? Then unlock it. You'll just get confused. And frustrated. Howard took the EOB from her hands. I'll call them tomorrow. I want to call them myself. Why don't you trust me to handle this? The question hung between them. Heavy with implication. Why didn't she trust him? He was her husband. Her partner of 40 years. But trust felt different now. Like something that had to be earned instead of assumed. Howard folded the EOB again. Filed it somewhere she couldn't reach. Take your pill, he said gently. You're getting worked up. Elena looked at the blue tablet beside her water glass. Such a small thing. But Howard watched her take it like it was the most important moment of his day. She lifted it to her lips. Pretended to swallow. Howard relaxed. Smiled. Good girl. The words hit Elena like a slap. Good girl. Like she was a pet. A child. A patient. Not a wife. Not a partner. Not a person. Elena held the pill under her tongue until Howard left the room. Then spit it into her napkin. For the second day in a row, her mind stayed clear. And with clarity came questions. Why did Howard need her confused? Why did he want her friends to think she was losing her memory? Why was he so invested in her being sick? Elena wrapped the pill in the napkin. Threw it away. Tomorrow, she would start looking for answers. Tonight, she would stay awake. But first, she had to convince Howard she was asleep. Elena climbed the stairs slowly. Like a woman carrying a great weight. She moved through her bedtime routine with deliberate exhaustion. Howard watched from the bathroom doorway. Feeling better? He asked. Much. Elena pulled back the covers. The pill helps. Howard kissed her forehead, like a parent tucking in a child. Elena closed her eyes, regulated her breathing, waited for him to leave. When his footsteps faded down the hall, she opened her eyes. The room was dark, but her mind was blazing with light. Something was very wrong in her marriage, in her life, in her own house, and tomorrow she was going to find out what. Elena stared at the ceiling, counting the hours until dawn. For the first time in months, she couldn't wait to wake up. Elena woke before her alarm. The house was still dark. Howard's breathing was deep and regular beside her. She slipped from bed like smoke. Downstairs, everything felt different without medication fog. Colors were sharper. Sounds were clearer. Her own thoughts moved faster. The basement stairs creaked under her feet. She paused, listened. Howard's bedroom door stayed closed. The laundry room smelled of detergent and cold concrete. Elena had done wash here for 20 years. But today, she was looking for something else. Behind the detergent bottles, a manila folder peeked out. Too neat to be accidental. Too hidden to be innocent. Elena pulled it free. Her hands trembled. Inside admission paperwork for the Gables assisted living. The header read, Elena Whitmore, in careful print. Below it, a signature that looked like hers. But wasn't. Elena held the page to the dim light. The signature was close, practiced, but the E was wrong. Too careful, too studied. That's not my hand, she whispered. She flipped through more pages. Financial disclosures, medical authorizations, all signed with her forged name. At the bottom a deposit receipt. $25,000, withdrawn from her teacher pension account. Elena's legs went weak. She gripped the washing machine for support. Howard had used her retirement money. Without her knowledge, without her permission, for a place she'd never agreed to live. Elena kept reading. The psychiatric sessions from the Medicare EOB appeared again. Coded, dated, consistent, building a medical record, creating evidence of mental decline. It's not treatment, she realized aloud. It's documentation. Footsteps upstairs. Howard's morning routine starting. Elena hid the folder under her sweater and climbed the basement stairs. Each step felt like walking toward a cliff. Howard stood in the kitchen. Coffee maker gurgling. Everything normal. You're up early, he said without turning around. Couldn't sleep. Elena kept her voice steady. I found some paperwork. About the Gables. Howard's shoulders tensed. Just slightly. What paperwork? Elena pulled out the admission forms. This paperwork. Howard turned slowly. His expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. You go searching through things and then you scare yourself. This is not my signature. Howard stepped closer. His voice dropped to that gentle, patient tone. You signed those forms in Dr. Peterson's office, remember? Elena's mind raced. Dr. Peterson. The name meant nothing. I've never met a drive. Peterson, the psychiatrist. For your evaluation. Howard reached for the papers. You were having one of your episodes. You probably don't remember. Elena pulled the forms back. Show me his card, his address. I don't keep business cards, You know that. Howard was lying. She could hear it now. In the careful spacing of his words. The controlled tone. I want to call Drive. Peterson myself. Why don't you trust me? There it was again. That question. But this time Elena had an answer. Because you're lying. The words hung in the kitchen like smoke. Howard's face changed. The mask of concern slipped. For just a moment, Elena saw something else underneath. Cold, calculating, angry. Then the mask returned. If you keep making scenes, Howard said softly, people will believe what they already suspect. Elena's chest tightened. You mean what you told them to suspect? Howard tilted his head, like he was studying a specimen. Take your pill, Elle. Let's not do this. But Elena was already doing it. Had been doing it since the moment she found the folder. No. Howard blinked. Excuse me? I said no. Elena's voice grew stronger. I'm not taking any more pills. Howard's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then you'll get worse. The confusion will come back. I was never confused. I was drugged. The accusation sat between them like a thrown gauntlet. Howard poured his coffee with steady hands. That's quite a story, Elle. It's not a story. It's the truth. Whose truth? Howard sipped his coffee. Yours? Or the woman who can't remember her own medical appointments? Elena wanted to argue, but doubt crept in. What if she was wrong? What if the pills really were helping? No. She pushed the thought away. The folder was real. The forged signatures were real. The stolen money was real. I'm calling Rebecca today, Elena said. I'm telling her everything. With what phone? Elena's stomach dropped. The landline was still locked in Howard's study. Her cell phone was still missing. Howard set down his coffee cup. You know what I think? I think you're having another episode. A bad one. He walked to the kitchen drawer. Pulled out 2 blue pills instead of 1. Take these. They'll help. Elena stared at the pills in his palm. Such small things. But she understood now what they were. Not medication. Control. I won't. Howard's patience finally cracked. You will. Because if you don't, I'll call Drive Peterson. I'll tell him you're becoming paranoid. Delusional. The threat was clear. Take the pills or be committed. Elena looked at Howard's face. 40 years of marriage, and she was seeing her husband clearly for the first time. He didn't love her. He was managing her. Why? She whispered. Why what? Why are you doing this to me? Howard's expression softened into something that might have been pity. Because you're not capable of taking care of yourself anymore. Because someone has to make the hard decisions. What decisions? About your future. About your care. Howard's voice was gentle now. Reasonable. About what's best for everyone. Everyone. Not just her. Elena thought about the $25,000. The forged signatures. The psychiatric records. What's best for you, you mean? Howard shrugged. Like it was obvious. Elena backed toward the kitchen door. The folder pressed against her chest under her sweater. Where are you going? Out. You can't drive. Not in your condition. What condition? Howard gestured vaguely. Mental distress. Paranoid ideation. I'd be negligent if I let you behind the wheel. Elena realized with growing horror that Howard had answers for everything. Explanations. Justifications. Like he'd been planning this for months. Maybe years. I'm walking, she said. Where? Elena didn't answer. She grabbed her coat from the hall closet and headed for the door. Take your pills first, Howard called. Elena kept walking. Outside, the morning air hit her like freedom. She'd been a prisoner in her own house and hadn't even known it. But now she knew, and knowing changed everything. Elena walked toward town. The folder rustled under her coat with each step. She had evidence now. Proof of forgery. Proof of theft. Proof of a conspiracy to have her declared incompetent. The question was, what could she do with it? Behind her, Howard's figure appeared in the kitchen window. Watching. Calculating his next move. Elena walked faster. Away from the house. Away from the lies. Away from the man who'd been slowly erasing her from her own life. For the first time in months, she was thinking clearly. And what she was thinking was this: Howard had made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated her. Elena walked until her legs ached. The folder under her coat felt heavier with each step. At the town library, she found a quiet corner table. Spread the papers out like evidence at a crime scene. The forged signatures, the psychiatric appointments, the assisted living deposit, all documenting a woman who didn't exist. A confused, incompetent version of Elena that Howard had created on paper. But why? Elena studied the financial documents again. $25,000 from her pension. But that was just the beginning. A handwritten note in Howard's careful script: transfer remaining assets upon commitment. Elena's blood went cold. Howard wasn't just planning to put her in assisted living. He was planning to take everything. Her house, her savings, her entire life. And all he needed was a psychiatric evaluation declaring her incompetent. Elena folded the papers carefully. Put them back in the folder. She needed help, but who would believe her? Howard had spent months telling everyone she was losing her memory. Having episodes. The librarian approached. "Are you all right, dear?" Elena looked up. The woman's face was kind. Concerned. "I'm fine. Just researching something." Elena checked the library computer. Searched for elder financial abuse. The results filled the screen. Warning signs, legal protections, support resources. Everything described her situation perfectly. Howard had been following a playbook. Step by step. Isolating her. Controlling her medication. Creating false medical records. Building a case for guardianship. Elena printed the articles. Added them to her folder. By afternoon, she'd walked home with a plan. Howard's car sat in the driveway. He was waiting. "There you are." His voice was carefully controlled. "I was worried." Elena hung her coat in the closet. The folder crinkled inside. "I went to the library." "Good. Reading is important." Howard studied her face. "Did you take your medication this morning?" "Yes," Elena lied. Howard relaxed slightly. "I've made an appointment for you. With Dr. Peterson." Elena's heart raced. "When?" "Tomorrow. 2 o'clock. Howard's tone was matter of fact. "For a follow-up evaluation." Elena nodded calmly. But inside, panic was rising. "Tomorrow." Howard was moving faster now. "I should rest before dinner," she said. "Good idea." Howard smiled. "I'll make your favorite. Chicken marsala." Elena climbed the stairs slowly. Like a woman carrying a great burden. In the bedroom, she hid the folder under her mattress. Then lay down and closed her eyes. But she wasn't resting. She was planning. At dinner, Howard was charming. Attentive. Like the husband she'd married 40 years ago. "The chicken is perfect," Elena said. "I'm glad you like it." Howard refilled her wine glass. "You seem calmer today. The medication helps." Howard beamed. "I'm so glad you're feeling better." But Elena wasn't feeling better. She was feeling trapped. After dinner, Howard disappeared into his study. Elena heard the lock click. She cleared the dishes. Washed them slowly. Buying time. When Howard emerged, he was carrying his briefcase. "I have to run out. Client emergency." Elena nodded. "I'll probably go to bed early." "Take your pills first." Howard handed her the blue tablets. Watched her put them in her mouth. Elena pretended to swallow. "Good night, Howard." "Good night, Elle." The front door closed. Howard's car started. Elena spit the pills into the sink. Washed them down the drain. Then she went to work. The study door was locked, but Elena remembered where Howard kept the spare key. In the hollow economics textbook on the hall bookshelf. Her fingers found the metal. Cold and small. The study unlocked with a soft click. Elena had avoided this room for months. Howard's domain. But now she saw it differently. Not a sanctuary. A command center. The desk drawers were locked too. But Elena had all night. She found another key taped inside an old penholder. Howard was methodical. Predictable. The drawers opened like secrets spilling out. Financial statements. Bank records. Insurance policies. And something else. A power of attorney document. Signed with her forged name. Giving Howard complete control over her finances. Elena's hands shook as she read. The document was notarized. Official. Legal. Howard could now act on her behalf for anything. Everything. But that wasn't the worst discovery. In the bottom drawer, monthly bank transfers. Large amounts. Regular payments. To someone named Clara Sanchez. Elena stared at the name. The address. The amounts. Thousands of dollars. Every month. For over a year. Elena's chest tightened. Howard was supporting someone else. With their money. Her money. She photographed everything with the small camera she'd bought at the drugstore. Click. 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 Evidence. Documentation. Proof. The Medicare fraud records were there too. Bills submitted in Elena's name for appointments she'd never had. For treatments she'd never received. But the payments went to Clara Sanchez's medical providers. Elena understood now. Howard wasn't just stealing her money. He was using her identity to pay for someone else's health care. Someone he cared about more than his own wife. Elena kept photographing. Page after page. Building her own case. At the very back of the drawer, a letter. Handwritten. In Spanish. Elena's high school Spanish was rusty, but she caught enough. Mi amor. My love. Gracias por todo. Thank you for everything. Pronto estaremos juntos. Soon we'll be together. Signed, to Clara. You're Clara. Elena's world tilted. Howard had a lover. And he was stealing Elena's life to support her. The assisted living facility. The forged power of attorney. The psychiatric evaluations. It wasn't just about money. It was about freedom. Howard wanted Elena gone. Legally, medically, completely gone. So he could be with Clara. Elena sat back in Howard's chair. The leather creaked under her weight. 40 years of marriage. And this was how it ended. Not with honesty. Not with divorce. But with theft and betrayal and a slow, methodical erasure of everything Elena was. Car headlights swept across the study window. Elena's heart hammered. Howard was back. She quickly locked the drawers. Returned the keys. Turned off the desk lamp. The front door opened as she slipped upstairs. Elle, you awake? Elena called from the bedroom. Just getting ready for bed. Howard's footsteps climbed the stairs. Elena lay in bed, eyes closed, breathing steadily. Howard paused in the doorway. Watching. Listening. Then he went to his own side of the bed. Elena waited until his breathing deepened. Until she was certain he was asleep. Then she opened her eyes in the darkness. Tomorrow, Howard planned to have her evaluated by Dr. Peterson. Declared incompetent. Committed to the Gables. But Elena had other plans. She'd found Howard's secrets. His lies. His crimes. Now it was time to use them. Elena stared at the ceiling. But she wasn't seeing darkness anymore. She was seeing light. Elena woke before dawn. Her mind was crystalline. Sharp. For the first time in months, she remembered who she used to be. Elena Whitmore. 3rd grade teacher. 32 years in the classroom. A woman who'd taught hundreds of children to think critically. To question. To verify. To never accept something just because an authority figure said it was true. She'd forgotten those lessons. But they were coming back now. Elena slipped from bed. Howard was still sleeping. Or pretending to sleep. In the kitchen, she made coffee. The morning ritual felt different now. Not routine, but preparation. The pills sat beside her cup like small blue accusations. Elena picked one up, held it to the light. What exactly had Howard been giving her? For how long? She wrapped the pills in tissue paper. Put them in her purse. Evidence. At 9 o'clock, Elena walked to the senior center. The morning was crisp. Clear. Her steps felt purposeful. Elena. Martha Henderson waved from the entrance. Are you feeling better, dear? Elena paused. Martha was one of the women from the charity luncheon. One of the women who'd given her those pitying looks. Actually, yes. Much better. Martha studied Elena's face. You look sharper today. I am sharper. Elena's voice was steady. I wonder if you could help me with something. Inside the senior center, Elena found what she was looking for. A small poster by the community bulletin board. Legal Self-Help Circle. Every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Led by Sarah Klein, retired attorney. Elena checked her watch. 9:45. The legal circle met in a small conference room. 6 folding chairs arranged in a circle. 3 were occupied by women Elena's age. Sarah Klein looked up as Elena entered. Silver hair. Sharp eyes behind reading glasses. Welcome. Are you here for the legal circle? Elena nodded. I need help. With a situation. Sarah gestured to an empty chair. That's what we're here for. Elena sat down. The folder from Howard's study was in her purse, along with the photographed documents. I think my husband is trying to have me declared mentally incompetent, so he can steal my money and put me in assisted living. The room went quiet. Sarah leaned forward. That's a serious accusation. What makes you think so? Elena pulled out the folder. Spread the documents on the table. The forged signatures. The psychiatric appointments she'd never attended. The power of attorney she'd never signed. This isn't my handwriting, Elena said, pointing to the signatures. And these medical appointments? I was never there. Sarah examined the papers. Her expression grew grim. This looks like coercive control. Financial abuse. Sarah looked up. How long has this been going on? Elena thought about the blue pills. The missing phone. The locked study. Months. Maybe longer. I was foggy. Confused. But I haven't taken his medication for 3 days now, and my mind is clear. What medication? Elena unwrapped the tissue paper. Showed Sarah the blue pills. He says they're for my episodes. But I think they were keeping me confused. Sarah nodded grimly. We need to document everything. Do you have copies of these papers? Elena pulled out her photographs. I took pictures of everything in his desk. Good. Sarah's voice was approving. Evidence is everything in these cases. Another woman in the circle spoke up. My sister went through something similar. Her husband was drugging her, making her seem incompetent so he could get power of attorney. Elena's chest tightened. What happened? She fought back, got help. He went to prison. Sarah spread Elena's papers on the table. We need to move quickly. If your husband has scheduled a psychiatric evaluation tomorrow, 2 o'clock, with someone called Drive Peterson, then we don't have much time. Sarah stood up. First, we're getting these pills tested. Then we're calling Adult Protective Services and Medicare fraud investigation. Elena felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Sarah handed Elena a business card. This is Detective Martinez. She specializes in elder abuse cases. Call her today. Elena stared at the card. What if Howard finds out? He's already found out, Sarah said gently. He knows you're getting stronger. That's why he's accelerating his timeline. Elena nodded. Sarah was right. There's something else, Elena said. She pulled out the photograph of Clara's letter. He's been sending money to another woman, using my Medicare benefits to pay her medical bills. Sarah's eyes widened. Identity theft. Insurance fraud. This keeps getting worse. Or better, said another woman in the circle. More evidence means a stronger case. Elena left the senior center with a plan. And phone numbers. And people who believed her. For the first time in months, she wasn't alone. At home, Howard was waiting. How was your walk, Elle? Nice. I went to the senior center. Howard's smile tightened slightly. What did you do there? Read magazines. Talked to people. Good. Howard relaxed. Social interaction is important. Elena nodded. Inside her purse, Detective Martinez's business card felt like a weapon. I should rest before my appointment tomorrow. About that, Howard's voice was gentle. Concerned. Doctor Peterson wants to discuss your medication. Possibly adjust your dosage. Elena's blood chilled. Higher dosage meant deeper confusion. Less ability to fight back. I see. Don't worry. He's very kind. Very understanding. Elena climbed the stairs slowly. Like a woman who needed help. But in her room, she moved quickly. Called Detective Martinez from the landline extension Howard didn't know about. Elder Abuse Unit, Martinez speaking. My name is Elena Whitmore. I need help. Elena told her story. Quickly. Clearly. With documentation. Detective Martinez listened without interrupting. Mrs. Whitmore, what you're describing is serious criminal activity. How soon can you come in? Tomorrow morning? Before my husband's appointment? Perfect. Bring everything. Every document. Every photograph. Elena hung up. Her hands were shaking, but not from confusion. From anticipation. Tomorrow, Howard thought he was taking her to be declared incompetent. Instead, Elena was taking him down. She looked at herself in the bedroom mirror. The woman staring back was alert, determined, angry, but most importantly, awake. Elena Whitmore was back. Elena woke at 5 a.m. Her mind was electric with purpose. Today was the day. She dressed carefully. Conservative navy suit. The one she used to wear to parent-teacher conferences. When she needed to be taken seriously. Howard was already in the kitchen. Reading the paper. Acting normal. Big day today, he said without looking up. Yes, Elena agreed. Very big. Howard glanced at her. You look nice. Dressed up. I thought I should look presentable. For Dr. Peterson. Howard smiled. He'll be impressed. You look like your old self. Elena almost laughed at the irony. She was her old self. That was the problem. I should leave early, Elena said. For a walk. To calm my nerves. Good idea. The appointment isn't until 2. Elena kissed Howard's cheek. Like a dutiful wife. But she was already gone. At the police station, Detective Martinez was waiting. A woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. Mrs. Whitmore, thank you for coming in. Elena spread her evidence across the conference table. The folder from Howard's study. The photographs. The blue pills in their tissue wrapper. Detective Martinez examined each document carefully. This is extensive, she said finally. Forged power of attorney, identity theft, insurance fraud, coercive control. Is it enough? It's enough to start an investigation. But we need to be careful. Your husband can't know we're involved until we're ready to move. Elena nodded. What do you need from me? Keep your appointment with Dr. Peterson, but don't go alone. Detective Martinez handed Elena a small device. Audio recorder. Legal in Connecticut. Record everything. Elena slipped the device into her purse. We'll also have an undercover officer in the waiting room. Dr. Peterson is known to us. He's done evaluations for several suspicious guardianship cases. Elena's stomach tightened. So this isn't Howard's first time? Probably not. Men like your husband are often repeat offenders. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. Other women, other victims. What happens after the appointment? That depends on what drive. Peterson says, if he tries to declare you incompetent based on a single session, that's our evidence of conspiracy. Elena left the police station with a wire in her purse and fire in her chest. At home, Howard was pacing. Nervous energy radiating from him. How was your walk? Peaceful. I feel ready. Howard checked his watch. We should leave soon. I don't want to be late. In the car, Howard was unusually talkative, giving Elena instructions. Dr. Peterson might ask about your memory. About confusion. Just be honest. Elena nodded. She planned to be very honest. The medical building was modern. Sterile. Elena spotted the undercover officer immediately. A woman pretending to read a magazine. Dr. Peterson's office was on the third floor. His secretary smiled sympathetically at Elena. Mrs. Whitmore? Dr. Peterson will see you now. Elena stood. The recording device in her purse felt heavy. I'd like my husband to come with me. Dr. Peterson appeared in the doorway. A thin man with cold eyes. That's not necessary, Mrs. Whitmore. This is just between us. Howard squeezed Elena's shoulder. I'll wait right here. Elena entered the office alone. But she wasn't really alone. Dr. Peterson gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Elena sat carefully. The recorder was running. Your husband is very concerned about you. Drive. Peterson began. He says you've been having episodes. Memory problems. Has he? Confusion. Paranoid thoughts. He's worried you might be a danger to yourself. Elena kept her voice calm. What kind of danger? Medication errors. Financial mistakes. You understand. Elena understood perfectly. Doctor, I'd like to ask you something. Have you ever examined me before? Dr. Peterson hesitated. Just for a moment. We've had consultations, phone conversations with your husband. But you've never met me in person? Not formally. Elena leaned forward. Then how did you bill Medicare for psychiatric sessions I never attended? Dr. Peterson's face went white. I'm not sure what you mean. Elena pulled out the Medicare EOB. The one Howard had tried to hide. These charges. For sessions that never happened. That's insurance fraud, isn't it? Dr. Peterson stood up quickly. This session is over. Actually, it's just beginning. Elena stood too. I know about the forged power of attorney. The fake medical records. The money being sent to Clara Sanchez. Dr. Peterson moved toward his desk. Elena saw him reach for the phone. I wouldn't, Elena said. The police are already involved. Dr. Peterson's hand froze. That's right, doctor. This whole appointment is being recorded. Your admission that you billed for services you never provided. Your participation in a conspiracy to declare me incompetent. The office door opened. Detective Martinez entered with 2 uniformed officers. Dr. Peterson, you're under arrest. In the waiting room, Howard saw the police officers. Elena watched his face change. Confusion, then fear, then calculation. He stood up, started walking toward the exit. Howard Whitmore, Detective Martinez called. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Howard stopped, turned. His mask finally fell away completely. Elena saw her husband clearly for the first time in 40 years. Not the man she'd married. Not the partner she'd trusted. A predator. Elena, Howard said, what have you done? What I should have done months ago, Elena replied. I told the truth. The handcuffs clicked around Howard's wrists. The sound was final. Elena walked out of the medical building with her head high. For the first time in months, she was free. The courthouse was everything Elena remembered from jury duty years ago. Marble floors, high ceilings, the weight of justice in the air. 3 months had passed since Howard's arrest. 3 months of investigations, depositions, and evidence gathering. Today was the sentencing hearing. Elena sat in the front row with Sarah Klein and Detective Martinez. Behind her, other women filled the benches. Women Howard had targeted before Elena. Women brave enough to testify. She wasn't his first victim, just his most recent. The prosecutor, Maria Santos, had called Elena's case textbook predatory behavior. Howard had studied elder abuse techniques, perfected them over years of practice. Elena thought about Clara Sanchez, Howard's lover. She'd fled the country when the investigation began, but her medical bills remained. Thousands of dollars charged to Elena's Medicare benefits. The judge entered. Everyone rose. The state versus Howard James Whitmore. Elena watched her husband of 40 years led into the courtroom in shackles. He looked older, smaller. The commanding presence was gone. Howard glanced at Elena once. She met his gaze without flinching. He looked away first. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the defendant orchestrated an elaborate scheme to defraud his wife of her life savings, her medical benefits, and ultimately, her freedom. Elena listened as Maria Santos outlined the evidence. The forged documents, the fraudulent medical bills, the psychological manipulation. The defendant drugged his wife to make her appear mentally incompetent. He isolated her from friends and family. He created false medical records to support a guardianship petition. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, Medicare fraud, conspiracy with Dr. Peterson, who had already pled guilty and received 5 years. But perhaps most damaging, the prosecutor continued, is the evidence of motive. The defendant was supporting a relationship with another woman using his wife's stolen identity and benefits. Howard's attorney tried to minimize the crimes. My client made poor choices. But he believed he was acting in his wife's best interests. Elena almost laughed. Howard's best interests. Clara's best interests. Never Elena's. The judge called for victim impact statements. Elena stood, walked to the podium. The courtroom was silent. Your Honor, I am Elena Whitmore. For 8 months, my husband convinced everyone I knew that I was losing my mind. Including me. Elena's voice was steady, clear. He stole my medication and replaced it with drugs that made me confused and compliant. He forged my signature on legal documents. He used my Medicare benefits to pay another woman's medical bills. Elena looked directly at Howard. But his greatest crime was stealing my identity. Not just my financial identity. My personal identity. He made me doubt my own thoughts. My own memories. My own worth. The courtroom was completely quiet. I am 70 years old. I should be enjoying my retirement. Instead, I'm starting over. Learning to trust myself again. Learning to believe that my thoughts matter. Elena paused. The man sitting at that table isn't my husband. He's a criminal who wore my husband's face for 40 years. Elena returned to her seat. The judge made notes. Other victims testified. Similar stories. Different details. The same predatory pattern. Howard declined to make a statement. The judge spoke for 20 minutes about elder abuse. About the vulnerability of senior citizens. About the special trust that exists in marriage. The defendant exploited that trust in the most calculating way possible. He weaponized his wife's love and loyalty against her. The judge looked directly at Howard. Elder financial abuse is not a victimless crime. It destroys lives. It steals dignity. It violates the most fundamental bonds of human relationship. Elena held her breath. Howard Whitmore, I sentence you to 15 years in state prison. You will also pay full restitution to your victims, including Mrs. Elena Whitmore. 15 years. Elena felt something release in her chest. Howard's shoulders sagged. His attorney placed a hand on his arm. As they led him away, Howard turned toward Elena one last time. He said. I'm sorry. Elena stood up. My name is Elena, and I don't forgive you. Howard nodded. For the first time, he looked genuinely defeated. Outside the courthouse, Detective Martinez shook Elena's hand. You did good in there. We all did good, Elena replied, looking at the other women who had testified. Sarah Klein smiled. What's next for you, Elena? Elena looked at the courthouse steps. The blue sky beyond. The world that was hers again. I'm going home. To my apartment. To my life. And then? Elena thought about the senior center legal circle. The other women who needed help. The system that had failed so many. Then I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Elena walked down the courthouse steps. The autumn air was crisp. Clean. Behind her, the building held the weight of justice. Ahead of her, the world held possibilities. For the first time in 40 years, Elena Whitmore belonged to herself. Spring came to Elena's apartment like a whispered promise. Sunlight filled her kitchen window. No locked doors. No hidden pills. No footsteps measuring her every move. Elena placed fresh herbs on the windowsill. Basil. Rosemary. Thyme. She'd never been allowed a garden at the Greenwich house. Howard said it was too messy. Now she had herbs. And mess. And choice. The mail came directly to her. No intercepts. No filtered information. Elena opened each envelope herself, with her own hands, in her own time. A letter from Rebecca arrived from Seattle. Elena's daughter had visited twice since the trial. Apologizing for not seeing the signs sooner. "Mom, you seem like yourself again," Rebecca had said. Elena smiled at the memory. She was herself again. Maybe for the first time ever. The senior center called. Elena had started volunteering with Sarah Klein's legal circle. Helping other women recognize financial abuse. Teaching them to document evidence. "Mrs. Whitmore?" The voice on the phone was young. Scared. "My husband took away my checkbook. Says I can't be trusted with money." Elena scheduled the appointment for that afternoon. Another woman. Another story. Another chance to help. At the grocery store, Elena chose her own food. Planned her own meals. The freedom was intoxicating. She bought ice cream. Howard had never allowed it. Empty calories, he'd said. Elena ate ice cream for lunch. Because she could. The courthouse had awarded her full restitution. The house in Greenwich sold quickly. Elena didn't miss it. Too many rooms. Too many memories of being small. Her apartment was perfect. One bedroom. One bathroom. One life, completely her own. Detective Martinez stopped by sometimes. Checking on Elena. Updating her on other cases. "You started something," the detective said. "More women are coming forward. Reporting financial abuse." Elena poured tea for both of them. Real tea. Not the herbal medication Howard had disguised as care. "Good," Elena said. "No one should go through what I went through. How are you sleeping?" Elena smiled. "Like a baby. No one is watching me. No one is managing me." "Any regrets?" Elena considered the question. 40 years of marriage. Gone. Everything she'd built with Howard. Erased. "No," she said finally. "I regret staying so long. But I don't regret leaving." That evening, Elena walked to the community college. She'd enrolled in a writing class. Personal narratives, the catalog called it. The instructor was younger than Rebecca. But she listened to Elena's story with respect. "You should write a book," the instructor said. "Other women need to hear this." Elena was already writing. Pages and pages. Her story. Her survival. Her return to herself. At home, Elena sat at her small kitchen table with a pen and notebook. The same kind she'd used for lesson plans 30 years ago. She wrote about the blue pills. About the forged signatures. About the moment she realized she wasn't losing her mind. She wrote about Howard, not with hatred, but with clarity. She wrote about freedom. Outside her window, the city hummed with life. Cars. Voices. The sound of people living their own lives. Elena set down her pen. Looked at her reflection in the dark window. The woman staring back was 70 years old. Wrinkled. Gray-haired. Alone. And completely, utterly free. Elena's phone rang. Her own phone. With her own number. "Elena?" Sarah Klein's voice. "Are you busy tomorrow? We have 3 new women joining the legal circle." "I'll be there," Elena said. After she hung up, Elena made her evening tea. Chamomile. Because she liked it. Not because anyone prescribed it. She thought about Howard in prison. Wondered if he was sorry. Really sorry. Or just sorry he got caught. It didn't matter anymore. Elena opened her notebook. Wrote one more line. "My signature is mine again. And that's the beginning of everything." She closed the notebook. Tomorrow she would write more. Help more women. Live more life. But tonight, she would simply be Elena Whitmore. 70 years old. Single. Free. She'd never been happier. The apartment settled into evening quiet. But it wasn't the silence of oppression. It was the silence of peace. Elena turned off the lights. Walked to her bedroom. Her bed. Her choice. She'd survived. More than survived. She'd returned to herself. And tomorrow, she would help other women do the same. Life doesn't end just because it breaks once. What falls apart can be the very place where we learn to stand again. If this story gave even a small moment of strength to someone out there, then everything Elena went through means something today. The window beside her bed stayed unlocked. The door stayed unguarded. Elena's breath came and went as it pleased. She belonged to no one but herself. And that, Elena thought as sleep came gently, was the most beautiful truth of all. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe, and share a piece of your own story in the comments below. Your words might become the seed of the next chapter we create together. Thank you for spending this time with Elena's story. For believing that it's never too late to reclaim what's yours. Thank you for remembering that freedom, once lost, can always be found again.